Hi, welcome again on this platform where I share our thoughts about leadership. I'm glad you're here to learn with me today around the topic of how you can lead effective meetings. You probably would remember this definition I've given for leadership, that leadership is knowing what to do and doing it so that you can influence and serve other people. So today I'm going to be talking about how you can lead effective meetings. Many organizations function by having meetings where they call 2, 3, or more people together to discuss and find the next course of action. It's interesting to note, however, that many meetings are not run very effectively. I recently came across a study that says that here in Canada, about $22.5 billion is lost to ineffective meetings. In the US, it even increases to $225 billion. That's amazing. And the reason is very simple, because many meetings are done and there's no clarity on what the objective or the outcome of that meeting is. This is why I'm hoping to share with you some thoughts around how to move meetings and have effective meetings. While you may or may not agree with this cost and financial implications, I'm sure you can remember some meetings you've been part of where you weren't even sure what the agenda is, or midway into the meeting, somebody asks and says, "Hey, what are we even talking about? I'm not sure I'm clear on the objective of this meeting." That's why I want to share with you today how you can lead effective meetings with these 5 O's that I've come up with. So let's get right into it. Before I talk about them, however, I'd like you to stay till the end, because I'm going to be sharing with you a very interesting hack that Amazon actually uses for running their own meetings. I found it to be quite insightful, and I hope you do too. But before I share that story, let's talk about the 5 O's. The first O is objective. Every meeting has an objective, and it's important that you are clear on what that objective is. In some instances, it could be brainstorming that you're coming together to talk about, to find different ideas. In other cases, it could be deliberating on some options to come up with a decision. Some of the times, it's just sharing status reports and receiving feedback on some ideas. It's important that you are very clear on what the objective of the meeting is, because everything else revolves around this. The second O is order. I often advise my clients that when you're preparing for meetings, ensure you have a sequence of activities, a logical flow that things will go, so that there is some form of guidance that you can provide to everybody as you go along. Now, it's important that you're arranging that in a way that each point is building on the previous point. For example, if you want your team or the meeting to land with decisions, then it's important that you have already explained or provided those options that will lead to the decisions, the pros and the cons of the options, so that everybody is fully aware before they actually get into that phase of making a decision. I often also advise that you write this down so that you have it with you as a point of reference in case things get derailed along the way. The third O is overview. When you start the meeting, I would recommend that you provide an overview to everyone as to exactly what this meeting is about. And those first 2 O's are your points for that overview. You share with everybody what the objective of the meeting is, and you take them very briefly through the order of events so that people who have questions or concerns may already see those things will be taken care of further down the line. Overview is also a great way for you to actually begin to demonstrate your ownership right there in the meeting. The 4th O is outcomes. Now, as you go through your items in the agenda that you have, it's likely that each item would have some form of outcome or action that needs to be taken. It's important that you are documenting these outcomes in a way that is easy for everybody to refer to afterwards. I would often advise my clients that you're actually documenting those outcomes right there in the meeting. Probably you can share your screen, or if you're all in the same room, you can all be looking to the flipboard, the whiteboard, or the screen. This helps to ground everybody as to what is being said, and people don't leave that meeting with different understandings of the same thing, because everybody is reading straight, there's clarity, and there's understanding. The 5th O is ownership. Now, when I say ownership, I'm talking about you taking ownership of the meeting first of all. It's important that everybody knows that this is your meeting, in the sense that you call this meeting and you are taking responsibility for the effective running of this meeting. One of the very clear ways you can demonstrate this ownership is by providing that overview I talked about in the beginning. In addition to that, however, all through the meeting, you want to keep bringing people back to the order of your meeting so that people don't derail you. If somebody asks a question that is off point, be confident enough to say, that's a great question. Can we just park that for now and let's just go with this flow? This helps to ensure that your meeting doesn't go in a different direction and you don't achieve the purpose for which the meeting was called up. So these are the 5 O's that I have found to be very effective in running meetings. And I'll run through them very quickly again. The first is objective. The second is order. The third is overview. The fourth is outcome. And the fifth is ownership. Now, one more point on ownership before I move on. It's also important that you are clarifying who owns the action points that are coming through in the meeting so that there's clarity as to who needs to take that action point and follow up on it afterwards. I can't count the number of meetings that I've been part of where we come up with some great action points, but the person leading the meeting is not careful enough to ask, so who's going to take ownership for this particular action point? And you and I know what happens when everybody assumes that somebody's going to do it. Nobody does it. So you, as the leader of the meeting, want to make sure that everybody's very clear on who is owning what action points. This helps for follow-up, and this helps you to build upon those points when you gather again for your next meeting. So hey, there you have them. Those are the 5 O's for leading effective meetings. Before I go, however, I'd like to leave you with some tips for applying these 5 O's. I am very much aware that leading meetings, like many other things in leadership, is not a straightforward line. I've given you some tools with these 5 O's, but I'm very aware that things may not always pan out as we expect. So here are some tips to make these 5 O's more useful in your journey of leading meetings. Number 1, find out who are the key stakeholders or the strong personalities in that meeting, and prior to the meeting, share with them the objective and the outcome so that there's a bit of alignment. This helps to prevent them derailing your meeting when the meeting is in progress. The second thing I would encourage you to do is to embrace flexibility. You and I know that things can't always go as we plan. So be flexible as you go through your order. Be accommodating. Yes, people may talk a bit off point, give them a bit of time. And when you notice that it's going totally off point, then you can just say, can we just bring this back in a gentle but firm way? The reason why you want to be flexible also is because in an organization, sometimes the greatest ideas come through when we don't even plan for it. So that flexibility just helps you to keep things nimble and to be more accommodating for everybody in the meeting. My third tip to you is documentation. Documentation is critical in meetings. I know everybody is sharp, everybody remembers things, but I would always advise that you want to document the key points as the meeting is going on, especially so that people are seeing what's been agreed upon, the action points, and who's taking that away. That just helps everybody to be grounded, and then it helps you to build up on that in the next meeting. Meeting notes and all those things are great, but I don't know if you've noticed, many people don't read the meeting notes after the meeting. So it's better to get those key things documented right there in the meeting. Now, this point of documentation now leads me to the hack I was going to talk about that I said Amazon applies when it comes to how they run meetings. I read an article about 6-7 months ago that was talking about how the senior leadership team in Amazon actually have their very important meetings. The first 15 minutes of this meeting is spent doing just one thing, and that is reading a memo that has been prepared specifically for that meeting. People are not talking, they're not trying to share ideas, everybody's quiet. I mean, pin drop quiet. And they're just reading that document to build understanding, to really be clear on what they're there to discuss. And then after that, they open up for conversations. I think that is a very powerful way to actually run effective meetings. I don't know if you've ever employed the idea of sending a pre-read to people before the meeting. If you're like me, you probably will have noticed that many times no one reads your pre-read. So this approach actually helps to ground everybody, anchor everybody, and then you can easily pick up from there as you go along your conversation. As I wrap up this discussion on leading meetings, I want to leave you with these 2 action points that you can work on. The first is, of these 5 O's, I'd like to hear from you. Which one of them do you think is most impactful for you as you continue along leading your meetings? Which of these 5 O's do you think you need to work on to be more effective in leading meetings? I'd love to hear from you on that. So please leave some comment in the comment section, and I'd love to hear back from you on that. My second action point to you is that you want to apply these 5 O's that I've shared with you in this video so that you can lead more effective meetings. Remember, it's not the knowledge that you have in your head that makes the difference. It's the knowledge that you act upon. So take action, and keep influencing. Bye for now.